Okay, so this is CloudCMA, and for those of you who don't have an account in CloudCMA, everyone can have one that wants one. We only set them up as requested because not everyone uses the program, and we pay per program or per user, but we are happy to sign you up if you ever want to have one and don't have it. Within the program, you've got 4 basic parts to the program. The CMA, which is the most popular, we covered that when we did listings last month. Buyer's tour, which I'm going to go over today. And then this says property, but it's actually property report, which is basically like a 4-page flyer. So you get information on the property as well as area schools and area restaurants with Yelp reviews, that kind of thing. It's like a more extensive flyer. And then a flyer is just a traditional 1-page flyer. Now, this Home Beat 5th product within the program is an add-on feature that is able to be purchased by you all if you want it. It basically sends an auto CMA or market report to customers, your database, on a scheduled basis, which you could choose to add to your account if it's something you want to do. But today, like I said, I'm going to go over the buyer's tour. When I log into CloudCMA, I land on my home screen and I can always just click create new report. I don't have to select from up here. So this will give me the opportunity to select which type of report I want to create. And today I'm going to do that buyer tour. So if you will look up here to the left with me underneath create buyer tour, you will see there are 4 steps. What I love about this program is it's so user friendly. These same 4 steps are how you create any one of these 4 products. So if you're creating a CMA, you're going to use these same 4 steps. It just is going to look a little bit different in the end. So the first thing you want to do is name the report. And this would typically be like your potential buyers' names, or however you want it to appear on the report, who it was created for. So let's say Ben and Stacy Trevian. I'm going to use myself as the client. So let's say I'm going to take a couple out to see some homes. This is how I'm going to name the report. And then on the right-hand side, it is asking for the MLS numbers. So you have a couple options here. You can separate your MLS numbers by comma, or you can separate them by different entries per line. So I pulled some ahead of time. So give me a second while I type these in. And then I'm going to click enter to the next line to enter my next one. But you can use just a comma or a space, actually. And if you have questions while I'm typing, don't hesitate to unmute at any point. Even if you're just doing one home, this might be, all right, I'm off here. 221062052211660. Nope, I'm right. Okay. So I've entered the 4 homes that I'm going to take my buyers to see. And then after that, I'm going to click fetch listings. Now you'll see the button appears in the top right corner as well as on the bottom. It takes you to the same place. It doesn't matter which one you click. Now we're going to go to the next step of those 4 steps. So as it's thinking here for just a minute, we're going to let it get to the next page where it goes to step 2, which is the listings. So step 2 shows us the listings that we entered. And this is really our ability to verify that it pulled in the correct properties. So here you can see them mapped. These are the properties mapped. And as I scroll down the page, they appear right here. You always have this details option underneath the check mark. If I click that, it will show me more information about the home if I need to verify information and make sure it's the correct home. This details gives you a lot more information from the MLS. If I decide I don't want to include one of these homes in the tour, I can just uncheck it by clicking the checkbox. Typically, when you're doing a buyer's tour, you've selected them ahead of time and they're the right ones and you want to have them in there. Now, On the outside chance that you get to this point and you need to add another listing, you can click this button. But let's say you're going to actually add a listing. You need to add a listing that's maybe a for sale by owner or off market property that you can't pull from the MLS. You can do that by clicking add a listing right here. And you can add an additional MLS live number here, or add a property to the tour by typing in the address yourself if it's not on market. I'll just put my own address in here for the demonstration. You can put that price in there. Whatever information that you want to add in, if you want to add a description, you can even go so far as to upload photos of the home to the tour if it's an off-market property, as well as this advanced information gives you some more fields to fill out if you want to. I'm just going to do a little bit of minimal information so that I can add it to my report. Once I've added the information I want, I'll click add listing. And that is step 2. So if I go back up to the top, you'll see we did criteria, which was choosing our MLS numbers. This is the listings section. And then if I scroll back down, I'm going to click customize report to get to step 3. Any questions before I move on? Okay, now this is the customize or the third step, and this looks the same as when you do a CMA. Anything that's underneath your buyer tour on the right-hand side are going to be documents that are going to print or be a part of that PDF version of this report. If you want to add information to or different documents to this tour that aren't in there, you can always come over here on the left-hand side. This is kind of like your library, and you can click the plus button to put them in there. Maybe you have custom pages. What's really nice is go through these and look at them by clicking on them. That gives you a preview of the document. And then you can decide, do I want this to be a part of my presentation or not? This is the contact page. Obviously, we want to include this one. That will have your picture, your information. Maybe you want to get rid of this cover page and put in another one. You can do that. Like I said, if you go hover over them, you can click this negative sign to remove the document, and that put it back over here. So if you need to pull another one back over, you just click the plus sign to add it to the report. But you can go through and look at all of these, or just go through and remove the ones you know you don't want. Some of these are really great. It talks about, benefits of home ownership, the buyer's commitment, disclosures, financing, information on your mortgage application, inspection process, preparing for your move, all of that. Maybe I don't want to talk too much about the company at this point because I've already told them all about it. And really what's important at this point is, talking about the closing process. So you can go through and eliminate the pages that you don't want by clicking the negative sign. The other thing I was going to show you is you have the ability to change the layout. Now, don't change the theme. This will make sure that it is branded appropriately. It's going to pull in the MP Dodge logo, and it's going to keep all our blue and red, headers and footers at the bottom. So you don't want to change that. But click on layout, and you can decide of the options how you want your properties to appear. So right now it's on 2 photos, but maybe I actually want to change it to photo with a map. I can do that by clicking on the other one. So that's my layout. So let's say I'm ready to go. All I have to do is click publish report, and then it's done. It's at the top right and at the bottom. Once it's published, I'm going to show you the 2 different options that you have. I'll give it just a minute here. Okay, I'm going to view the PDF. Can you see my screen? It's starting to pull up a PDF here.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Loading.
How about,
Okay, there.
There? Okay. So this is the PDF version. Now you can see this one has 53 pages. This is a lot of information, but it does give quite a bit of information about the properties. So you've got your cover page. This shows you the map of the properties you're going to be visiting, as well as who it was prepared for and what day. If I keep scrolling down, there's that contact me page. There's a map of the listings.
Stacy, there was a QR code up there.
Yes.
Is that just specialized for you, or?
So let me show you. It'll say right underneath it, it'll say download the report. So like if your client wants to just download it with their phone, they can do that rather than print it if they want it on their phone, things like that.
Okay, so it's for, it's already there for these reports,
it's right? Automatically going to pull anything that's created in here, typically pulls in a QR code. The property report, the property flyer, all of them will have a QR code on them that can download the document that it is on.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I'm going to keep scrolling down. I just want to show you after we get to a property. So I chose the photo with the map so that there was some association of where the home is located. And then as I keep going down, it pulls all of the photos of the home onto the report.
You did that in the template, correct? The map and the photograph.
Yeah, so I clicked, after I got to the last step and I chose what documents I wanted to be a part of it, I just selected my layout. It was the middle button. It was theme, NP Dodge, and then layout, and it gave me 3 options, and this was the first one.
Okay.
I'm going to get down to one more piece I want to show you specifically. So now it's talking about the area schools associated with the home. And it talks about area restaurants with Yelp reviews, with the distance to the home. And then all of these will have a page called buyer's comments. So it's going to show you the front and the back of the home, show you a little bit of information, and then they can write comments about the home. They could give it stars. This is great if you have paper people, but I'm going to show you the digital version of this, which is really formatted for an iPad. It's not an app, so you don't have to have an app to do it, but all of this, the stars and then the comments would then be digital, which is really cool. So I'm going to show you that here in a minute. I could keep scrolling through this report, but this PDF is just more of the same as it goes through the different homes. Do you guys have questions on the PDF before I show you the presentation mode or slideshow?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Can you see my CloudCMA screen again here, Chantal? Perfect. I'm going to click on the cloud in the top right corner. That's a very standard way to get to the home page of most websites, is that you click on the logo. So it took me back to my home screen. And you can see now here is the buyer tour that I had created just previously. And I have that PDF option, but I also have a slideshow. So I'm going to click on that in just a second, but I'm going to click on this meatball menu right here and show you, you can copy the slideshow link or the PDF link, or you can just click email report and send it directly to your client this way. Maybe you want them to have the slideshow. So you might copy that link and send it in an email so they can click it on their phone. It's really best formatted for an iPad, but I can show you what it looks like on the computer as well. So I'm going to click View Slideshow. We're going to let it load here just a minute. Can you see buyer tour, Ben and Stacy Trebian? Perfect. Okay, if you can't see, in the very bottom right-hand side of this tour, it says optimized by iPad. There's a little house, and then there is an arrow to the right. So this arrow is always going to show me what direction there's more information. And this house picture is always going to take me back to the home or back here at the beginning of the report. So I'm just going to click on the arrow to show you. Now, if you were on an iPad, you would just be swiping. You wouldn't click on the arrows, okay? So just a touch screen, you'd be swiping. This might work well on like your Surface, Diana, if you're using a Surface as well. So I'm gonna click the arrow. This is the next page. I'm gonna click it again. You can see I now have backwards and forwards arrows, which means that there's information both ways. Here is the map of the properties. They are the little green homes on the page. I'm going to click that arrow again. So my favorite thing is when you get to the properties, you now have a down arrow underneath the home button. So if I click down and I will be swiping, I can then read about the property as the buyer. I can rate it here. Maybe I rate it like that. And then I can digitally add my comments. Backyard was too sloped, kitchen updated, you know, with the blue door, whatever helps them to remember. And then if I click this down arrow again, oops, forgot to click save comment. Got my Zoom tools here in a minute, or in the way. Okay, so I'm gonna click down, and if you're swiping again, they can just see more of the photos by swiping. These are all clickable to zoom in. So it's really a cool feature. If if you're driving them around and you pull up your iPad, now it would need to have data or connect to your hotspot for Wi-Fi. You could hand that iPad to your client sitting in your car, and they could, between homes, go through and put their comments, rate the properties, look at the photos closer so that they can have a better idea of the ones that they have seen or are going to see. Again, it has the down arrow. My favorite thing about this feature is when the client gets to the end of the tour. I'm going to keep going. Here's my added property that I didn't put photos in, and it's off market. They can put their email address in here and click send buyer tour. And what's really nice is all those ratings and comments will automatically be on that document, and it will automatically send a copy to you as the agent as well. So it just happens seamlessly. It's a really cool looking presentation. That zooming in on the pictures feature is just really cool as well. Does anybody have a question on the slideshow version? No? Okay. The last thing I'm going to show you about let me move things here, sorry, about this presentation, and it's one of my favorite things. I'm going to share a new screen with you. Is that as the agent, once you've created a buyer tour, CloudCMA will email you as the agent this email. Can you see it? It says buyer tour, Ben and Stacy Trebian, helpful information. Helpful information, yes, it is. So it will give you as the agent a link to your buyer tour report, but also for easy access while you're on the move, they have Google mapped each of the properties for you. So if you need to click on it and get directions, as well as put the showing instructions, the listing agent, and their number underneath each property. This is for your eyes only, not sent to your client, but just a really quick email sent to you with all of that information so that you can on the go, call that agent, look at the showing instructions, or you can use this email to click on the properties and, then click directions because it's going to take you directly to a Google map of the property.
That's super cool.
Isn't that cool? This email is a newer feature, and I think it's just really helpful.
I showed 3 properties yesterday. I had to keep stopping, typing in different addresses, going to get the showing instructions, using the directions, and having all of that right there would have been extremely helpful last night.
So my class is a day late.
A day late, but it's okay.
Any questions on this or anything else with CloudCMA buyer tour before I move on to doing a purchase template in Zipforms?
I'm good. This is great. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. This is your Zipforms home screen. When you log in, this is where it takes you to the transactions tab. All of your open transactions or active transactions will be right here on the top. But today I'm going to walk you through creating your own personal template for a purchase transaction. So in order to do that, I'm going to get off of the transaction screen and go to the template screen. So up here in the dark blue bar, I clicked on templates. And then to create a new template, I'm going to click on this new or plus button. This is going to allow me to select what type of template I'm going to create. Last month, we worked on the listing template. So today I'm going to show you a purchase template. And then I'm going to name it. So I'm going to name it Stacy's Purchase Packet, Nebraska. Maybe I'll date it October or maybe 21, something that helps me to remember, you know, what this template is. And then I'm going to always select residential. As I scroll down, it gives me the option to auto apply this template to every, like if I wanted to apply it to every purchase residential transaction, I could select this. I don't recommend it because there are going to be times that you're going to want to build your transaction differently. So I think it's always best to choose when to apply a template. So the last thing I'm going to do in my creation of this template is I'm actually going to use the company template to create it. And what I mean by that is this global purchase packet Nebraska. This is like taking that blue folder off the wall at your office and opening it up, filling some information out on it that never changes, like my own information, closing it up, putting it in my desk drawer for when I'm ready to write a contract with the buyer. So I am going to use the company purchase packet to create my template. So I selected that template and I'm going to click save to open it. Going to open up that new template. In just a minute. Going to let it think. And then you can see I have all the documents that are associated with my new template here. Now, the first thing that I like to do is go through and get rid of the documents that don't pertain to me. For instance, I don't need the team agency disclosure. Anything else that's team, I would get rid of, or perhaps I don't want to have this transaction notes document in here. And you could leave everything in here if you want to. I just like to get rid of what I don't need. So I'm going to select those two and then scroll back up to the top and click delete. Are you sure? Yes. And then the most important thing to do is open up that cover sheet. Remember, this is the one that is specific to Zipforms. It's not something that you have to turn in with your file like the closing sheet. It just belongs in Zipforms, and it is the magic form that makes everything speak to each other. So when I single click on the cover sheet, it's going to open up the form. And again, I'm still in my template, not in a transaction. And I'm going to fill out the information that I would put in a purchase transaction that never changes. Now, listing broker, property listing information will change per transaction. So I'm going to skip over that. I don't know the seller information, seller mortgage, but I am the selling broker on every single purchase contract that I write. So I am going to fill in this section right here, this paragraph. Bear with me. I'm just like to fill it out as much as I can to show you more. Your office MLS ID, whatever that would be. My name never changes when I write a purchase contract. My phone number stays the same. You can put your phone number in both places. My email address. My agent MLS ID. It's not really fives, guys. It's just what I'm choosing today. And then think through the other things that are always the same, regardless of the contract that you're writing when you're working with the buyer. Now, 9 times out of 10, you need to collect the broker compensation, right? So I'm gonna put this in my template, because if there happens to be that 1 in 10 that I don't charge that, I can always delete it from that specific transaction. This way it pulls into every transaction and I don't miss it. And if I need to remove it, I can always do that in specific transactions, but it will pull in every time if I have it here. Let's say you always use the same termite company. Now, it's not always going to be the same, but maybe, again, 8 out of 10 times you use red termite. Well, put it in there because you can change it 2 out of 10 versus having to write it 10 out of 10 times, right? And how about title escrow? As the buyer, you can direct the title. So go ahead and put your title company's information in here. Again, there are going to be times where you can't direct that, but you can always change it in those specific transactions rather than typing it into every single one. I don't know any of the people. I think there's a Drew. We'll just put Drew. And you can put their phone number, their email address in here. And if there's anything else in this form that never changes, add it, or rarely changes, add it. Now, the great thing is about this program, I can click back and it's going to auto save anything that I filled out. And then the other thing I want to open up is the agency disclosure, I think it is. So if I go down to the second page of the agency disclosure, your manager doesn't change, right? So I can put Juan in there with his phone number. So that will be the same every time. So it makes sense to fill that out. Trying to think if I'm missing anything. Now, because I have 2 super capable people on here, I'm going to go even more in depth and do a couple other things in my template that I would do in an advanced class, which would be, I'm going to add some folders because I want this to be super clean and I want my cleaned up template to pull into every transaction. So I'm going to create a folder that's called buyer signed documents. You're going to see it appear underneath my main folder on the left-hand side. I'm going to create an additional folder. This one's going to be named fully executed documents. It's going to appear over here on the left-hand side. And then I want one other one. I'm going to call this one my working documents, or maybe you want to call it your Zipforms documents. And something I like to do is I like to put all of these, what I call a working document, into that folder so that everything is in a folder. So I'm going to select everything. These are the working documents. They have that blue banner down here that says ZFX, which means they're Zipforms documents. Those are the ones that share information. And I am going to put those all into this working documents folder. And after I selected them, you'll see I have this move button at the top. So this is how I can move a lot of documents at once. So I can say move, and I'm going to put this under working documents and move here. So then when I open up a transaction, this is what it's going to look like rather than all of my documents in the main folder. A couple other things I'm going to do before I'm done with my template is I'm going to go to my parties tab. And I'm going to have different buyers and sellers for every purchase transaction. But something that never changes is me, but I already put me in there. And I'm going to add my admin. So, whatever office you're at, 204 Dodge admin, 204, I don't know what it is. If it's like pp@mpdodge.com, and I'm not saying that's right, double check yours, but put your the email address for your admin for a purchase into a party so that every time it pulls into your purchase template for all the transactions you do that are a purchase. If that's not enough, next I'm going to go over to checklists. And I'm going to create a checklist. Now, some people use the checklist, some people don't. It's few people that use it. But if you build it out in your template, it will pull into every transaction. So I'm going to show you how to create a checklist that's associated with a purchase template. I can create a new checklist, and I'm going to call it my purchase checklist. And then it's going to allow me to create categories. Did someone unmute?
Yeah, I was just saying, I love this one, like just having a checklist, because sometimes, you've forget. And like, I like this a lot.
Yes. Yeah, it's great. So I named my checklist purchase checklist, but then you'll see underneath that it created a category. So think of it as like parent and child, or grandparent, child, and grandchild. This is the big over everything name of the checklist, and then we can create categories. So I can edit this one. Maybe I want this one to be called, you know, prior to offer. And then you can select your color and click save. And then you can create tasks within each category. So maybe you need to, you know, set up Zipform transaction. And these aren't necessarily, oh my goodness. These aren't necessarily actual check, you know, tasks that you would do, but I want to show you how to create them. So you could create a task, and then you always want to make it relative when you're creating it within a template, because your dates will be different based off of the transaction. So if I click relative, I can say 1 day before offer date, and then this task is going to be due at that time, and then I can assign who it's due, and typically I'm going to assign it to myself. And then I'm going to click save. So I just want to create a couple categories with a couple tasks to show you what that looks like. So here I've got my purchase checklist, prior to offer, set up my transaction, maybe another category. If I want to create a new one, I click new category on the top right, and I can select a category called post offer, or whatever you might want to call it. Select a color and save, and then you can create tasks underneath each of these categories. So maybe turn in paperwork. I'm going to make it relative, 1 day after offer date, who is in charge of doing it, I am, and save. Maybe another one is going to be order inspection. And I'm going to make that relative. I'm going to do it 1 day after offer acceptance date, or whatever date of contract, whatever you want to choose. And you can change that one to, you know, 3 days or whatever you want to do. Assign it and click save. Hey, Barb.
Yo, Mom, what's up?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So that's how you create a checklist within your template. Do you guys have any questions on this before I move on? Because the next thing I'm going to show you is how to use your template when you're creating a transaction. So checklist questions or template creation questions? No? Okay. So I'm going to click back to list. This is going to show me here are all of my templates that I have created. I should delete this one so I don't use the wrong one. Okay, so I am going to go back to the transactions tab, because when I am ready to write a contract with a new buyer, this is where I land when I log into Zipforms. So to create a new one, I'm going to click the new or plus button, and then I'm going to select the purchase or offer. Once I'm here, I'm going to name the transaction. So this is going to be maybe Ben and Stacy Trebian, or maybe I type the address, or both. You can determine the naming convention for your transactions. Up to you. And then one other piece I want to show you, oh, I don't mean to do that, is the MLS Connect feature. This works only on a purchase because we need a live MLS number, but this is going to allow you to pull in all of the listing information from the MLS. So when I clicked on the MLS Connect button, it took me to this pop-up. Can you see my pop-up?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to leave it on residential, and then I'm going to put the listing MLS number in here. And then I like to include the property photo because I think it makes my file look prettier, and click find. Also helps me to recognize the home quicker and that I'm on the right file. So then I can verify that it pulled in the right property and then click use listing. Always selecting residential. And then as I scroll down, when I get to select a template, this is when I'm going to select that new purchase packet Nebraska 21 that I created. So my personal template, Stacy's purchase packet. And once I've selected that template, I'm going to click save, and it will open up that new transaction. We'll give it just a minute to open up. It always opens up onto the summary tab, which gives you kind of a snapshot view of what's going on in the file. We'll let it pull in here just a minute. But you'll see as I scroll down, information I didn't add pulled in because of that MLS Connect feature, which is really nice. It pulled in the legal and the address. It pulled in the listing agent's information. If I click on parties, you'll see it pulled in the listing agent here, me as the selling agent. That 204 Dodge admin is pulled in because remember I added that to my template. And then if I go to documents, you will see I have my folders that I created over here on the left-hand side. Now, a couple other things pull into every file. If I want to, put those somewhere, I can throw those into the folder by using that same move feature that I showed you when I created the folders in the template. Maybe I want those in my working documents because I want all of my Zipforms documents in a folder. So when I'm ready to write the contract, I can come into my working documents folder. But the reason I created these other folders on the side is if you're using DocuSign and you're using the e-sign feature within Zipforms, let's say I filled out one of these and I'm ready to sign it. I'll click e-sign and new. It's going to walk me through it. This is just a quick demonstration of this because I want to show you the folder feature. So let's say I'm just sending the purchase agreement for signatures. On this first step, you can select a return folder for the signed documents to go into automatically. So in this case, if I'm going to send the purchase agreement to my buyers for signatures, it's only going to be signed by the buyers at this point. I am going to select my folder called buyer signed documents. And then when this is signed, after I go through the process, once it's signed, rather than that signed document being dropped back into the main folder of my transaction, it will be in the buyer signed documents folder, just keeping me more organized as I go through this transaction. Because how many times do you go into your file and you have a purchase agreement 3 times? The first one is your working document from Zipforms. The second one is your buyer signed side, and then you get the finished one from the other agent. So you've got 3 and you have to figure out which one's which and which one you need to turn in and where it is. Whereas if you put it in folders as you go along, it'll help you to stay organized and know exactly which one you need to turn in at the end. All right, I'm going to click back. So I also want to show you, let me refresh this just a second. Where'd you go? Sometimes we've got to switch screens. There it is. So now I can go back into that file, and I just want to show you the last piece that pulled in from our template is that checklist, because it's going to pull into every transaction that I use my template now because I created that checklist within the template. Now I can always come into this specific transaction and I can add more tasks in here or remove some. It's going to show you the dates as you start to fill in information in the transaction, as you start to add an offer date, as you start to add a closing date, and you can create tasks that are relative to those dates. If you need to remind your clients to change their OPPD and MUD 2 weeks before closing, you can put that as a task and put it relative to the closing date by 14 days. Does that make sense? All right. What kind of questions do you have? A couple of you joined a little bit later, so you didn't maybe get it all, but I did record this whole class. The CloudCMA Buyers Tour is really cool, and I already went over that, but I will send out the recording link here after we're done, and it all downloads. No questions? All right, guys.
I've not seen those folders before.
Yeah. You want me to go through that? Do you want me to show you that one more time, or you're just saying that's?
Yeah, I'll look at that.
You want me to show you?
Yeah. And
okay, so you can create folders in each transaction. Like if you went into a transaction and you go to the Documents tab, I'll get my.
So I just had a folder where I had the buyer and the seller.
Yeah. So if I want to, in this specific transaction, add a folder, it always lives here and it would populate over here on the left. So it'd be part of the main folder, holds everything. But if I add a folder, oh, guys, just ignore my typing today because we're not going to.
Yeah. So you add that.
I added folders. I didn't add them here. Barb, what I did was I added the folder to my template so that every time I use this template,
it's there.
These folders pull into every purchase transaction then.
Okay.
So I would go into my template and create folders here. I put all of the working documents within a working documents folder so that they're not all in the main folder. And I have to actually click on it to go there. These two will be empty in your template. But if you pull them, or if you put them in your template, they will pull into every transaction when you use that template.
Okay. I got you. Because it would have been helpful in that situation when you have buyer and seller.
Yeah. Oh, you had both sides. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Anybody else? Can I answer any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. It was good to see some of you. And Barb, I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for helping me with your thumbs up.